All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Does It Hold Up? The new podcast that I guess has a name now.
Is that what you're calling it? Is that the official name?
That's that's what I'm calling it.
Perfect.
I'm Steve. That's Sam.
Hello.
This is the podcast slash YouTube series where we go through and listen to and talk about old songs from when we were young, and we decide whether or not it holds up in current year. Um, last week we did one of mine, and tonight or this
Today,
morning
yeah.
or whatever it is, we're gonna do one of Sam's. But before we get into it, Sam, how are you doing?
I can't complain at all. It has been a nice weekend of relaxing stuff, and it's always good to be talking about music. Even though we talk about and literally involve ourselves with music every day, it's nice to talk about not music that we don't want to play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I've enjoyed these chats so
Mm,
far, and like this podcasty thing. It's like kind of breathing new life into my love of music, which has been lost over several years of music therapying.
I
Um,
entirely agree to that.
and it's also been like forcing me to like actually listen to things,
Mm,
which is good. Um, so it's been a nice change of pace.
agreed.
But today we're looking at a band that I had never heard of before, which I was impressed about because it's like a pop punk band, and it's rare that there's a pop punk band that I
Yeah,
haven't heard of.
yeah.
Uh,
This
so
is
so you wanna give us the intro to this song?
Sure, I'd love to. Unfortunately, as if you're just joining us for some reason on episode 3 here, we can't play the song, so your assigned reading and listening is below us in comments
Yeah,
and such.
I'm gonna also put it in the Twitch chat right now.
Sure. But the band is a so back in the ye old days of your Blink 182s and your Sum 41s and your the hell was the other? There was another punk giant that I can't think of right now.
Newfound
Newfound
Glory,
glories and your newfounded glories
Simple Plan.
and your simple plans, your plans that are easy. There was an underdog group out of California called by the name of Rufio. Yes, that Rufio, the second in command of Peter Pan. And they didn't just do pop punk, but they did like speed pop punk. They did like pop punk on like crack. That's like the only way I can think to describe it. And
Fun fact about the character of Rufio from that Peter Pan movie,
yeah, sure.
famously played by Dante Bosco,
Yes.
the voice actor for Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they were founded in in exactly 2000.
wow.
They were kind of uh the counterculture. They were kind of more of the punk as opposed to the pop in a lot of ways. To that kind of like style of music. It was a three-piece band initially, moved to four. But their big thing was just like the pre-hardcore movement, and you can tell a lot of it based on just like their like even on the songs open, because this is like their first album, their first song. This is like you can tell just right away on like their first opening riff that this is like going to go hard. And it hooked me as a kid because I was listening, all my friends were listening to Blink 182. I listened to Blink 182 too, like tried some 41, but nothing really like stuck with me. It was all kind of like, this is cool, but I don't know. It just doesn't make me, it just doesn't fit. And then I don't even remember where I heard this. I don't even remember where I heard this band. Uh,
I
they
was
just
gonna
kind
say, like, I've never heard of this band, so
yeah.
I'm curious.
I don't even really remember where I heard of them. I think I found them on some like mixtape, some like the old mix CDs of old or something like that,
Sure.
and was like, okay, this song kind of slaps. Like, what else do they do? And it was just like done, like sold on that, and I am like in on this band completely. I will fight people to the death for this band, and here we are.
Nice. Okay. So like, when did you discover them? Cause so like 2000, I was a strapping young lad of 10. you were what, 11 or 12?
11 or 12. I was going into middle school at that point. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I
because you're a year older than
I'm
me. 2 years older than me.
a year or two at this
When
point. Yeah.
when were you born?
I was born in late 88, 89.
Okay, so yeah, so you're 2 years older than me,
Yeah, so I'd be
technically.
12. So I would be in the middle of my yeah, because I graduated elementary in exactly 00. So I was in the
Yeah.
middle of middle school, year
So so
7.
I did you hear these guys in 2000 or was it like later on?
It was definitely later. It had to be later on. Steve, can you give me a check? We're just making sure we got sound good.
A check.
Oh yes,
A
you're good.
check.
You're good.
Hello.
Okay, now we're
Yes.
perfect.
Hi.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Apparently it was down. I don't know why.
I don't
Sorry about that. But yeah, it had to be like going into high school, which would for me would have been like 2003 ish, because that was
Yeah,
about
that
that
makes sense.
time. That was about the time I was like starting to go to shows.
Yeah.
I was starting to listen to music and starting to like really get into
Yeah.
this culture.
Yeah, like 14, 15 is a good age to discover pop punk, I
Oh
think.
yeah. That was yeah,
So,
and that was the time it was again it was popular. So it was one of those cases where like it was everywhere, and especially because like Warp Tour and things like that were picking up, right? Like those were kinds of like the
mhm.
foundations. When did Warp Tour first start? Anyways, now that I'm
I
thinking
don't
about
know.
that, I'm scared
It
for this
like
answer.
I know that Ozfest was like the first like big metal festival, like rock festival, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Warp Tour started in 1995.
Wow. So they've been going.
Yeah, which they played that a couple times,
Sure.
but yeah, so like
Cool.
that was where yeah, I don't remember where exactly I came into them, but that was one of the like first times I had ever like that was one of those first like pop punk bands when I was like, I don't want to listen to Blink. They're too poppy. I don't really care. Sum 41 missed me. Newfound Glory was kind of meh. I liked Simple Plan, but this was where I was like, cool, I
Mhm.
can spin this CD all day long.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you went more in like that direction as a response to like the mainstream stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
like my response to like all of the mainstream stuff was to like completely ignore it and just go in the
Yeah,
direction
you
of
went
like
into the
metal
metal. Yeah,
and like eventually I found prog. Like I found like Tool and
yeah.
like Dream Theater and shit, and then I was like really pretentious about music for a long time.
Well, truth be told, this like led down a big, long, stupid rabbit hole of like, this eventually led me like the hardcore scene to like um and then like further down the line to like mathcore. So
Right.
you can see like this is like that first step of the descent of madness kind of thing. So yeah,
Totally. Totally.
definitely had that way.
Yeah. Um Getting into like talking about the song though.
Yeah,
Um like I don't know, like fucking ostinato guitar riffs. You know, you
yeah,
wanna like you wanna hook me. Like they're
yeah.
like there's like anatomies to songs that are just like if you want Steve to like your song, like
Hmm.
in these 5 easy steps, and one of them is like a sweet like ostinato riff where it's like the riff bouncing off like an open string or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Um, I think like the like easiest uh most recognizable one is like that one Avenged Sevenfold song
yes. I know
that
exactly the
everyone
one you're
that
talking about.
everyone
Yes,
knows. Like and like I forget what it's called, but like you know the one.
yes, I know exactly the one.
Or like 46 and 2 from Tool.
Yes,
And this song starts off in a similar way.
I think that is one of those like it was definitely we were kind of talking about how Battery similar like was the opener of the album open like this was the opener of this album, and this was definitely like you could hear that riff and immediately tell that this was like the opener to like an entire set also,
Yeah,
just from
you
that like
hear
that
that
power.
you can hear that and you go like, oh, okay, I know. Like based on that riff, like I have a general idea of what I'm in for,
Yeah,
and then you
and
know whether or not you're here for it or not.
yeah, and then it'll kick into that big like get that big like crank energy moving like it just kind of like goes from the start. It gives you like a little bit of a warning and then it just goes, and it's just so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other parts? Because I'm curious to see, does this hit like, because I know what parts it hits for me, and I've alluded to this last week, but like those bass fills are fucking great, man. This bassist
Yeah,
is
so
so
like
good.
the bass playing is really cool. I'm less a fan of like the playing with a pick style
Yeah,
personally uh
like a
than
lot do.
other people who are into pop punk and stuff, and I think that is just like PTSD from like going back to Metallica. Like Cliff Burton like didn't play with a pick, but then Jason Newsted, the guy they got to replace him, did play with a pick, and so I always had a bit of a chip
Yeah.
on my shoulder about it.
Okay.
Which in hindsight is fucking stupid.
Yeah, but
um
I understand it. Yeah.
but like yeah, so like that like a halftime chorus or
Yeah.
pre-chorus,
Hmm.
big fan.
Yep.
um like a good vocal melody in a chorus, like a good
Hmm.
hook. um like just it's a lot of the stuff. So it's a lot of the stuff that um I kind of like, what a formative band for me that we will probably talk about at some point, that very much this band reminds me of, is Rise Against.
Yes, I could. Yeah, 1,000%.
um and I think that this song has a lot of similar like aspects to it, like that.
Hmm. No, I
that's
completely.
that's
I
the
see
thing
that.
that I have in my notes here.
Well, and so similarly, like even looking a little bit deeper in the lyrics, like it's also just a like it's a little bit tougher in like this song in particular, because this one's like a big stupid metaphor. But this group hates fucking record companies and the recording industry. It's kind of insane how many songs they wrote that are all just metaphors for like the music industry sucks, music is all the same, and nobody's
Yeah.
creating and innovating, which like to me was kind of like a cool thing also, because in a world where like Sum 41 and Blink 182 literally kind of do sound the same and like Simple Plan sound the same to me,
Hmm.
like how am I
That
not?
spoke to
Yeah,
15-year-old
that
Sam.
spoke to 15-year-old Sam, who is also like this. Everybody is kind of listening to the same thing, and this is I'm the only one doing something different. I'm doing it. I'm non-conforming. Take that, the
was
system.
was where was discovering this band on your timeline of discovering ska? which i
This
which I feel is the thing that I
it's
equate
an
all of
unre-
your musical preferences to. Is
that is
like
it's not an unreasonable music. Look, we will get to ska eventually. I promise. It all will eventually get to ska. This was well before I would say, because there was
yeah.
like this was probably the point where uh like I might have heard like one or two like Real Big Fish songs, but I was never like listening to ska outright. This was in the timeline. This was like post Forgotten Session 1, like 9 days post like my EDM kind of like J-pop phase, and then this phase hit where it was like speed pop, speed punk, and then like
Hmm.
moving into like goth rock. So this is pre Judge Bread phase, as I'll call it here.
We need to get him on when we talk about goth rock
We will. Oh, we will. Don't worry.
eventually.
We'll find a way to
Yeah.
we'll find a way to do it. But yeah, this
Yeah.
was kind of this is like, but again, this hits those same kind of some of those same notes as like the ska does, though, I think in some ways, because
Hmm.
similar things, like it's gang vocals, it's got those kind of like halftime feels.
Absolutely.
You can't really tell from this song, but in some of their slower, they do a lot of big deals where it's like here's like a slow song that entirely is like a different mood, and you wouldn't almost believe came from this group. And
Hmm.
it, yeah, I can like, and I like, again, it has those kinds of like same qualities. So it did kind of lead down the line eventually to that, but I think it led to more of like Streetlight Manifesto style ska, which I'm not the
Absolutely.
biggest fan.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
the bassist in this
Oh
is
yeah.
very similar to like the Streetlight
Oh yeah.
bassist.
Uh,
Except like the Streetlight bassist I think is like a little bit jazzier
yeah.
in the way that he uses like walking lines.
Hmm.
But like this guy's got like the chops to like
Oh yeah.
do
He can
some
hang.
like cool stuff. And like you know just one so like uh one of the things that I think contributes to that impressive bass performance on this track, and I don't know if you noticed this or if anyone who's like listening along knows this, but like the production on this track is like strangely clean.
It is.
for
Yeah.
a band of this era.
So this one, I believe, I'm gonna double check this because I think this is because here's what. So what they did is they actually went back and remastered this at some point, and I think the one I
Mm,
gave you, I think the one I gave us is the original.
okay.
Because the remaster has a bit more like vocal harmonies, a bit more of like cleaned up and like a couple extra like things there. But I think this was the original one, and back in and like I remember
Yeah.
specifically listening to it how the bass was absolutely just cranked to 11 and being like, oh, this
Well,
is
like
really
it's
cool.
yeah, like it's not even that like obvious. Like it's very bass driven, but like the fact that the bass is like so up in the mix and like,
Yeah.
but not in such a way that it's like overshadowing everything. Like you can kind of clearly hear everything
Oh yeah.
in the song. Like that's like pretty cool from a band in like 2000 2003.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
think that that was something that was yeah, that was an interesting thing to me too, right? Was being able to actually be like, man, I can't hear everybody. Now finally like I'm hearing it, which was like yeah, a new thing at that time. So yeah, like it was a really cool treat to be able to listen to not only just actually hear the bass, but actually hear like a good bass player in theory, you know,
Right.
for young me.
Yeah, and it's like this was like around the time, or I guess maybe it was a little before. I don't know the exact, but like when like the era of like these like fucking pristine mixes where
Mm,
like everything is like very mixed,
yeah.
mastered, like and it sounds like almost corporate. Like Simple
Yeah.
Plan, New Found Glory have that sound where like it like and I think like Blink kind of started it, and then like a
Hmm.
lot of people kind of like jumped onto that trend of like all of those albums, like all of pop punk for a while was just kind of like mixed and produced in like the same way because it's just like like Blink did it and
Yeah.
Sum 41 did it and like that sort of thing, and so like one of the contributing factors to all of those albums sounding the same. Yeah, the Offspring's another good
Yeah,
example.
they're a good example of
Um,
that era that did that.
where like all of those records, in addition to like the songwriting kind of being very similar, the production just like they were using a lot of the same filters, the same EQs, the same whatever, and it's because that's what sold.
Oh yeah. I think the other thing that it kind of is like uh in a similar like vein of that. I think this also speaks to because they were like a band out of California, and that was their deal was they were like a band jumping over to kind of like a little history theory of them. Like they were formed in college when like a couple of like friends just grabbed a third buddy and was like, okay, let's start making some music, picked up a fourth dude when they're like, oh, we've got something. This feels very much like garage, like the three kids off the street made, you know, like three, four kids off the street bound together and made it. This feels like the average
Well,
person coming up as opposed to like the Blink 182s or like the Sums that kind of not like you said, like kind of that corporate feel where it feels like they got found and then like all the pieces were like given to them.
yeah, well, like it. I was gonna say like it kind of does feel almost like that in a way because like the mixing and mastering is like so like kind of like well done, like it doesn't sound the same way that those other pop punk
Yeah.
bands of the time sound, but it has like it's clearly like done by like someone that like knows what's up and like knows what they're doing.
So it's interesting because it's written here, and I don't know if it's probably not this CD particularly, but it is like somewhere here it says around the same time they purchased 2 4 tracks to record the songs they were writing, and they would have they would have the drummer listen to the recordings and play drums with the recordings and then put it together that way. So like even going as far back as like I wonder if that because like you know that medium better than I do would like listening and like recording from 4 tracks make that sound difference, like would that be like the bigger deal, like would that aid in that?
I mean, like, I doubt that's what they were. I doubt that's what they did
Like
for this
intended.
album.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh yeah,
don't
yeah.
like I think that that's probably like when they were writing songs and when they were like demoing stuff. Like that's probably what they did like their
Mm.
demos and stuff on. But like this album, whatever album this is from, like
Yeah.
is like I think produced,
Oh, it is.
uh,
The initial album, perhaps I suppose that's from. It was produced by the Militia Group out of Long Beach, California.
yeah,
Looks pretty small. Can't see anything crazy about them. Yeah, they look pretty small. 2002,
yeah,
the label sold its first 100,000 albums with its first release, RU-FI-OOO, perhaps I suppose, and was opening offices out of Canada. So like that was their big also hit for this company too.
yeah. So
Okay.
like they just had like
They had some good
some
production
good
behind it, yeah.
some good some like talented like this is a long tangent to get to, like the people like recording and producing this album were really talented.
Yeah, no, agreed. I agree with you on that. It kind of shows, and even on the re-up of it like it's still there. It seems like they like fought to
Mm-hmm.
keep that kind of a sound too. So
Yeah,
the remaster
it's
not
like
listed, but yeah.
yeah, like the original version of this is very cool. It's like how like a lot of remasters actually have a lot of uh or a lot of original recordings are like not done very well, and then when they remaster them they almost sound like completely different.
Yeah.
Like the most notable I think is like the Beatles stuff. Like if you listen to
Oh yeah.
like old like the original recordings of Beatles stuff and then you listen to like the remasters, and especially the stuff that people have been doing recently with like remastering and
Mhm.
restoring like the old Beatles like recordings and like studio time and everything.
Mhm.
They like it's like crazy how different they sound. And but I imagine the remastered version of this doesn't sound that different from the original
No.
because they like kind of nailed it on the original.
Yeah, you lose a little bit of like the fuzz and distortion that kind of just they came in. That might have been like key to their like thoughts at the time of like we really
Intentional,
want this.
yeah.
Yeah, like that might have been intentional, but they cleaned that up. But like otherwise, like I said, like the only difference is really just they added some vocal harmonies and they kind of tweaked some stuff like that. But otherwise, like they didn't change much about it. And yeah, I think it just sounds like that.
Mhm.
I think they crushed it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, join us for our side podcast all about how the Beatles recorded their albums.
God, oh
Yeah,
God.
they definitely did
Yeah,
that, Blood. By the way,
Beatles definitely will have. Yeah.
um, yeah, like if you want to hear some like fucking crazy like production wizardry, go listen to like the remasters that they did of like Sergeant Pepper's and shit like a few years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
in like a cool way. It's very cool. So,
Well,
um,
uh,
so let's. I have a question for you about
go
the
ahead.
lyrics,
Go ahead.
because you're more of a lyric-y theme
Yeah.
kind of guy.
Yeah, of course.
And and I have in my notes here from listening to it, trying to like pay attention to the lyrics. Is this some Christian shit?
This is actually not some Christian shit.
Okay.
Usually I would actually I would give that warning if we were like a Christian bit shit. There's a good chance we'll bring POD into this shit or blindside, but like this one's actually not. This one's like just a big ridiculous metaphor that it's like there's two ways you look at it, and I only know this because I've looked at this like several times because I also did this at like 16, 17. Like what the fuck are they actually singing about here, because this feels weird. There's
Yeah.
two ways there's two major ways that it seems like they can look at it, because one, and I've alluded to this before, is um this one's kind of more of a like shot at looking up at like the record companies, the people in charge of like producing, making sounds, and talking about how they just basically like they're just like trying to earn their favor and like trying to constantly looking up at them because they're so far above them, quite literally, in like the production and like things like that like they know they have to, like, to get famous they have to like pray and like work like that. And that's like one metaphor, and then the other metaphor is like the pretty generic, like I'm in love with X person and they are quite literally the angel that I'll never be with. Like that's kind of the other one
Right.
that like most people clung to. But the other one that they like, because I remember like listening to an interview that they were like, they gave at one point, and they're like, yeah, like most of our songs are just talking about how like it was impossible to get to like make these kind of record labels and people happy with the music we were producing. So to kind of like get our own like way out of that, we put it in our songs and we just did it that way, and that was what we sang about it. We just kind of disguised it.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So are they still around in current year?
So the answer is they have not been around for quite some time, and which made me sad because Liz's comment earlier on is listening to a little bit of the song. I could see how they could be in a revival. I really wish they were. They're not. They broke up approximately. They were playing their farewell tour in 2007. But come 2008, they announced like a breakup. They released like an EP, which I think I've listened to, and it was like pretty good. But then come like 2010, they were like totally done. It was just creative differences. A couple of the members of the band went on to like make a couple other things, and they were like started new projects, but it just kind of like fell apart and never really like did anything. And like you can kind of even see it in the chart there. There's like a hiatus from like 2008 to 2010 where they were like, cool, we're done here. They like got back together to try to do like one thing, tried to pick up the pieces, and it just never really did, and it just never got there. They released their last album in that time, and then they were just like, okay, that's all we do. Which
Yeah.
I recommend like all their albums, but like that's just gonna be me. I'm gonna do that anyways. So
Yeah, I'm like looking through their wiki article and like looking at the people that they like were touring with. It's just like this makes a lot of sense. Like they toured with the Ataris, they toured with Less Than Jake.
Yep.
Like Census Fail,
Oh yeah.
MXPX and Reliant K. Like yeah, like this makes sense. Like this is like comfortably in like the Sam pocket.
Oh yeah, it really is. Um that was the other one. A couple of them went on to like form and work with another group called the Lost Boys Club, also hilariously Rufia Peter Pan based, but they also kind of like fell apart. Also their discography looks really weird. Cuz like their songs just look really weird, but that's you know, I'm not here to I don't know enough about them. But yeah, so they have unfortunately not been around for quite some time. They gave us like one last album, which was super cool and interesting, but then they like faded off into, you know, creative differences and kind of passed. And I again, like I wish they had, because I agree with one of our comments. Like I think they could be in a little bit of a revival here, considering like that kind of stuff has picked up.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I'm definitely gonna at least check out this album that this song is on.
The one thing I will say about the album, like expanding out from just this one song, and I'll say my thoughts about this later, is that like there's only like most of the songs are similar to this, where it's like it's very high energy, it's very up there and moving, and there's only like one or two songs that kind of like change it up a bit. So they were very, I could see how they like never picked up being kind of like a one note, kind of like a pseudo one note band, and that happens to some groups. Like sometimes you do that, and sometimes you like sometimes you're a Fall Out Boy, you hit that pop punk stride and you try to like take it that way, and then you just totally change everything and go hard, and then you make it.
Yeah, sometimes you're like Breaking Benjamin, where you write
Oh
just one
god.
song for 20 years or whatever.
Oh lord. Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, this is a cool one. Do you have any closing thoughts, or are you ready to give them a rating? Or
I
give
mean,
this song a rating? How do you feel about this song having revisited it
so,
in current
so like
year?
so like interestingly enough, I haven't revisited this group until like this started coming up, and I was like, huh, I guess I need to start thinking about what do I want to bring, what do I want to do, uh you know, like who do I bring to this, who do I want to talk about. And I re-listened to this album recently, and it was like I would say like it's not going to hit everybody. It's going to hit like particular people or particular moods, but I think that is a I think it's I would dare say this, I think to me is one of those like hidden gems that if you've never heard them, if you never caught them, like there's no better time to go back and listen to music. You have all the time in the world. Just pop it onto it. Everything's on Spotify, whether you like it or not. Just pop it onto a Spotify or an Apple Music or whatever your choice is. It's there.
Right.
But like I think, I feel like it's one of those cases that like I could almost show this to a lot of people and they would at least appreciate it. But that's just me. So like let's what do you think, Steph, having not heard it all before today, do you think in current era it holds up?
Yeah, I think this is like a perfectly fine song. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not like blowing my socks off. Like
Yeah.
it's not like revolutionizing what I think about music, but like it is definitely like a sweet song by like a band that I didn't know but is like from a genre that I know
Yeah.
and like a lot, and therefore, you know, it's
Yeah.
like kind of a shoe in that I would like
Yeah.
this song.
Yeah. No. I also think I agree with you. I think it holds up. I think when I was like looking back and listening to even like Sum 41 and like other stuff around this time, I still look back and I'm just like, man, it does this still is like a pretty good sound. Like everything sounds great. I'm still like vibing to it. Like I think it holds.
Yeah. So as the one who brought it in, you have to give it the first rating.
I'm gonna give this song 19 of the youth in a mosh pit out of 20.
Okay, that's a pretty strong rating. I'm going to honor uh Rufio's actor Dante Bosco and give this a solid 7 Fire Nation attacks out of 10.
That's a very solid rating. I'm with that. So yeah, thank you for having this one, because that was like I said, this one was a new one for me. So Steb, you got a teaser for next week because it will go back to you. We're not quite yet for
Yeah.
bringing in guests, but what do you want to give us a teaser for next week?
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking for next week. I think that we've been too positive. I think we've been
Really?
bringing songs. So like obviously like our 9 days one we decided that didn't hold up, but then we've had two bangers, you know, like
It's time to
Metallica, like old
put them
Metallica was good. This song was good. I think it's time to go back in the other direction. I think I'm gonna bring something real cringe next week.
All right, that means you got to show up. You've heard it. You got to come back. You got
Yeah.
to watch it on YouTube or find us live for it, because you got to come check this out.
Yeah, come watch us probably dump on a really cringy old band.
I am so interested to see what you bring for that one, because that is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
but for now, if you are watching on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think about the song. If you need a link to the song, it will be in the description.
Yeah. If you are one of the band members of Rufio, thank you. I appreciate all of your music. I know you're watching.
Can you
It's
imagine?
Okay.
Like they just like
they're
just like, who's talking about us? Like they get a pig in their SEO.
Yeah. So. Look, weirder things could have happened, but yeah, do the YouTube stuff. We'll be there if you are.
Yep. If you're watching live, stay tuned after this ending screen for an exciting new project.
Bye, everybody.
That we're going to be doing. Goodbye.